This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangrath. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Bass Cat Boats, AFCO, Ducket Fishing, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
PTL, coming at you!
Good Wednesday, everybody. It is January 12th. Welcome to Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. And we have a really good show lined up for today. Kind of went the educational route yesterday. Matt Looney on from Pro Guide Batteries, and I basically just asked several dozen basic questions about batteries that most people should already know, but got a lot of good feedback from that, and that is something that I think going forward into the 2022 season, I'm going to work more on getting some of these educational shows. We have a great lineup of people in the industry who are very knowledgeable about what they do. A lot of the of you guys, the listeners, have given me really good feedback about that. Is some interesting stuff. So rods, baits, clothing, industry stuff. I will sneak in some of those shows, probably do like an industry spotlight once a month, but big shout out to Matt Looney from Pro Guide Batteries for yesterday's show. Today we have, I don't exactly know what Ben Milliken's title would be. It's kind of one of those things where, hey, when you're sitting on a plane and the guy next to you is in a suit and he says, well, what do you do? And, I've had that before where you're like, well, I'm kind of in the professional fishing industry, but then I do writing and then I also fish. And then there's this podcast. But I guess for lack of a better term, Ben is one of the foremost bass fishing and other species YouTube anglers out there. And I think he caught 8 fish on camera over 10 pounds, and we'll definitely talk to him about that when we bring him in. But also a former college angler, has fished tournaments, very heavily involved in the industry side. Heck, the guy even quit his job, and that's all he does full time now. So very in tune with what is going on in the industry, how to make a living in the industry. So we'll bring Ben in about 2 or 3 minutes to get his take on everything. He's actually sitting, I'm looking at him behind the screen now. He's sitting in a hotel room waiting to go chase some 10-pound fish. So much appreciation for Ben for waiting on that. But I wanted to get to one thing first. It's kind of been going down the first week of January. Monty, a BTL listener, actually sent me an email about this, and I'd kind of heard rumblings of it, but it put it on my radar. And on January 6th, the PBR, which is the Professional Bull Riders, and if you listen to BTL, we often compare professional fishing to other sports. This is the title of the January 6th article on the PBR website. It's PBR Teams, Series, Cities, and Owners named for Elite Bull Riding League launching in June of 2022. And what's really unique about this is you're talking about a lot of independent contractors, just like you are in fishing in the bull riding. Now, their longevity is not as long as it is in fishing. You don't see any 74-year-old bull riders out there. But basically what this is they have announced that there are 8 teams, and I believe there's 5 riders on each teams in Fort Worth, Glendale, Arizona, Austin, Texas, North Carolina, Kansas City, Ridgedale, Missouri, Nashville, and Oklahoma City. So now you have a team format in bull riding, and it says each game will feature 5 riders per team squaring off against another team. Full team rosters will be comprised of 7 riders, and then they have basically a home game, and they travel around, and then they have 2. So it brought me back to one of the things that Mark Jeffries used to always talk about, and we have actually kind of dived into that fishing dabbled with back in the day, and that would have been back in summer of 2007, which was the first TTBC, which is the Toyota Texas Bass Classic. And at that time, because of the slot limit that Lake Fork had, there had not really been many tournaments on Lake Fork. and they combined all of the leagues, and they had this thing called the TTBC to benefit the Texas Parks and Wildlife. Kelly Jordan, BPT angler now, was very instrumental in it, and it was a team concept. They had, I believe, 60 teams of 4 anglers, and it said the new team concept was also new to major tournaments. Instead of fishing against all the other entrants, each angler was a member of a team that competed against the other teams. Every angler's catch contributed to the team total, and it was really well received. Obviously, that kind of transpired into an individual event later on, but just an interesting comparison there between what the PBR is doing and possibly some potential team bass fishing events. I think that'd be cool. I know Jeffrey's always talked about, you have your team and your draft and all that stuff. So that's all I got there. Let's not wait any longer, and let's bring Ben Milliken into the stream. Ben, thanks for joining BTL on a Wednesday.
What's going on, Matt?
I am a little bit jealous because there's a 0% chance that I will catch a 10-pounder today. And there's probably, a 50% chance that you'll catch a 10-pounder today?
Oh, no, probably only like 40, 45.
Oh, okay. You are in a hotel room in an undisclosed location. Are you in the state of Texas, at least?
Yeah, I am in the state of Texas, yes. Top secret location, though.
Top secret location, and you are headed to the lake after you're done with BTL.
Yep, heading right over. Only about 5 minutes from the lake, so we'll be on the water soon.
Well, I want to thank you for joining the program. I know we had talked at the Bassmaster Classic, and it had some other interactions. Big fan of your channel and what you do in the industry. So thanks for taking that time out today. And we have, I've got like 3 pages of things that we can get into here. But for the BTL listeners, how would you describe what you do for a living? You're on a plane. The dude in the suit next to you goes, "What do you do, man?"
That's a good question. I heard your little intro, and you couldn't be more right there. And it's a question I get asked all the time. Family, friends, you meet somebody, what do you do for a living? I guess I would say I'm a fishing influencer, I suppose. But yeah, like you said, man, I've grown up obsessed with bass fishing and the sport of fishing. Thought that my route was going to be a tournament fisherman, a professional tournament fisherman. And then this YouTube social media door kind of opened, and I got in at a really good time. And I've kind of just hit on all avenues, from working my way into a ownership position with some bigger companies in the industry, to doing the YouTube thing across all different types of platforms, posting fishing photos, video content, tried a little bit of everything. So I'm involved in a lot of different stuff here.
Your YouTube channel, Milliken Fishing, and I talked to you while we were setting this up, Milliken. I grew up in Decatur, Illinois, home of Milliken University with an IN. So while I was setting the show up, I kept having to go back and double check the spelling of that. But you have 460,000 subscribers, and you posted your first video 6 years ago, October 19th, and I went back and looked at that. And one of the things that really sticks out to me is, dude, you've been very consistent over the past 6 years with content. Talk about that first video that you posted. It's got some killer music behind it.
Killer, some Skrillex or some type of crazy EDM.
But how did this whole thing evolve?
Man, I guess it is just kind of, a lot of it was guys kind of figuring out that there was a need and a want for different types of content besides just tournament fishing. As far as going out and doing, it blew my mind. People wanted to watch fishing vlogs, going out on the water, fishing, talking about your day, talking about conditions, the baits you're catching them on. And it's just kind of taken off from there. It's crazy to think back that far. I was kind of just posting at the start. My wife got me a GoPro for Christmas or my birthday. I can't remember. And I was like, okay, I'll throw a couple of videos on there. And I didn't know anything about it. I kind of made some videos, came back to them like, wow, a couple thousand people watched it. I don't know what that means. Cool. I didn't know you could make money on YouTube or any other social media platform. I was like, I'm going to go back to fishing tournaments now, but it's fun to make some videos. And then
you mentioned the tournament aspect of it. You actually were a collegiate angler and started a bass fishing club.
Correct. Yes, sir. I started a club at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. I started at University of Nebraska Lincoln, actually. My buddy Tony Semino, who kind of got me into tournament fishing, he asked me to come join the college club, and I was like, "What is this? I love to fish. I love bass fishing." But that's actually how I fished my first tournament. Then, flash forward a couple years later, I ended up playing college baseball, and so I transferred schools and moved around a little bit. And then I finally got to University of Nebraska at Omaha. Decided I was going to start the college fishing club because it was blowing up at the time, and I loved tournament fishing, college fishing, and yeah, went with it.
So when did you realize that this was an avenue that you could make money at? You said you didn't know anything about that. I assume you got a job. You were doing the YouTube fishing on the side. But was there an aha moment where you were like, "Holy cow! Like this has gotten bigger than I ever thought it could"?
Yeah, I don't know if there was one specific moment because like I said, I mean, I got my college degree, was working full time. My dream was to fish professionally in tournaments, and I kind of started to realize, like a lot of people do, you can't exactly just ask for 15 weeks off a year to go chase your dream and make enough money to survive. So I started doing this video route, and I guess it kind of just started getting traction with me posting videos on the weekends, one or two a week, to the point where I figured out how to monetize and do my thing that way, and saw some money coming in. And I thought, what if I posted 5 or 6 of these a week instead of one every week or 10 days? And I was lucky enough at that time, it was early enough that there was not a lot of fishing content. There wasn't really anyone doing what I was doing as far as traveling around bass fishing, fishing locally, but then also jumping in some tournaments, posting some tournament fishing videos, and people ate it up. They loved it.
That's one of the unique things about the channel that you have is you'll be fishing below a spillway for carp, and then you'll be in a tournament the next day, and then you'll be targeting double-digit bass in the next day. Is that a concerted effort to try to reach all of the different markets?
Absolutely. And I think we'll probably get into it a little bit more, talking about this influx of professional anglers and
Mm-hmm.
just people in general starting YouTube fishing channels. That they don't understand is, and I say this as someone that's ate up with tournament fishing. I'm a huge tournament fishing fan. It's what I wanted to do, and what I still probably will end up doing eventually in my life is hopefully fishing professionally, but from the tournament side. But people don't realize how small the tournament fishing industry is. It's tiny. It's so small. It's such a small part. I don't know what percentage. It might only make up 5% of the overall fishing industry.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many more people that are sitting on the bank fishing for carp, catfish, bluegill. They go on one summer vacation a year, and they fish with their family off the dock or wherever, or they're tied up to one of those bridge pilings at Gunnersville that you blast by, fishing for crappie every single day. And I didn't realize it at first because all I thought about for 10 years was tournament fishing. And then I got into this YouTube thing, and I started trying a bunch of different content and realizing that there's a lot more to it and a lot more people you can reach by targeting these different species and using these different fishing methods in different areas.
So who would you say your demographic is then? Do you have a broader demographic than the majority of the people who make a living posting fishing videos on YouTube? And are there ways, do you do analytics and study what demographics are watching it and how long they're watching it for and all? I mean, it's a science, or is it just throw a bunch out there, see what gets the more views, the more content, and then roll with it that way?
Absolutely. So there's no way to break it down into 20% of my audience is tournament fishermen.
Mm-hmm.
8% of my audience loves bluegill. It's not like that, but through feedback from fans via comments on the video, messages I get every day, I get a very good idea of what type of content people like, what they're relating to, what they want to see more of. And it's just like you were saying, through posting a lot of content. I used to make 5 to 7 videos a week when I started, and for years, it's just, I'm a baseball player. It's at bats. You got to have more at bats. It's the same concept I'm using when I'm targeting fish on Panoptics and forward facing sonar. I'm going to get as many at bats at big fish a day, and hopefully a couple pull the trigger.
Go answer this however you want to, but I'm going to ask it. So there's a lot of people who look at it and say, oh, there's got to be some sort of secret formula to get these likes. They've tapped into some sort of magic algorithm that it's showing up on everyone's Is that the case in some sense, or does it really come down to grinding it out, hard work and consistency with no breaks, and then eventually that's rewarded to where it's almost like tournament fishing, where you see the guy on the Bassmaster Classic stage holding up the 2 big fish, but you don't see the 10 years of work that go behind it. You just see the fruits of the labor.
Yeah, you kind of stole my thunder, what I was going to say there. But the secret ingredient is 2 things. I would say, one, hard work. Just I felt like I was one of the few people that actually had a career, a full-time job, got a degree. I wasn't just a little dweeb that dropped out of college because I was making a lot of money or something. Like, I had a career, a life, a family. And so I understood what hard work and what the work life was like. And so I think that helped a lot. Like, I don't want to go back to that. I am most passionate about fishing in my life. So I'm going to grind and bust my ass and work harder than everyone else. So hard work is one thing, but then not just doing it every day. Kevin Van Dam didn't go become the greatest fisherman in history by just going and doing the same thing every day. He learned. You got to learn from what's working. And like I said, lots and lots of at-bats, and then be willing to adjust and change and try different content. I'm still like changing all the time. My channel's evolving all the time based on what I enjoy, because that's a big thing that people, I think, overlook when they're doing YouTube. They want to make videos that pander to other people or pander to a specific audience, and they end up hating themselves in their career because they just don't enjoy what they do. And so do what you do and see what people like. And I think people genuinely gravitate towards you if it's obvious that you enjoy what you're doing.
You ever get burned out?
Not really. No. I take some time, little family vacations and stuff like that help a lot, I think. But I think the biggest thing is I'm doing what I love every day.
I know that I talk with Brad Hallman, and I do some of the videos from the Opens, and there's a bunch of us that do it. And it just seems like every year there's like a period of burnout. Now, granted, we're not making our living off of doing those YouTube videos, but it's just, I think it's underrated how hard you have to work to produce quality content consistently. I mean, I was looking back on it, and it's like every 3 days you got a fresh content coming out on your channel. Mm-hmm. Is that scheduled in advance, or is that like right now you're in a hotel room? Was that a buddy who said, "Man, the bite's hot here, come on down," and you're like, "Yeah, I'll do it"? Or is this something that you're like, "Okay, I'm getting this content here, then next week I'm going to be doing this, and the next week I'm going to be doing that"?
Yeah, my wife generally wants to kill me because I literally make decisions the night before the morning of a lot of time. And it's based on all these factors. You know, what type of content have I made a lot of videos on recently? And I have this video coming out, which is forward-facing sonar specific, catching crappie. I probably don't want to do that again. I haven't gone and chased big bass for a while. I'm going to blast over there to that, like 3 hours away. And if I go there, then it's like, well, I'm out in the middle of the lake. People don't really relate to that type of content very well because it looks like you're in the middle of the ocean. It's hard to teach anything. Like, oh, you're a bank fisherman watching this video. A lot of, like, half my audience, probably bank fishermen or more. They don't think much of me going and chasing Panoptix fish. So then I got to work in a bank fishing video. And then the next day I go there and, well, the bite sucked. I didn't catch anything. Well, what do I do the next day after that? Do I keep trying to make a bank fishing video? But my buddy's chirping in my ear saying 6 hours away, they're catching 14 pounders and on glide baits. I better go try that. So it's balancing all that and constantly mixing up different types of content.
Do you like that crappie stuff?
Yeah, I love it.
That's what I do instead of golf during the off season.
Yeah, I don't know why people golf.
It's wild, isn't it? That's a whole different frontier. One of the things that I wanted to kind of path that I wanted to go down with you is, why do you think people relate so well to YouTube anglers and people who put the content out? I've been at outdoor shows. I've been at the Bassmaster Classic, and you watch anglers that are not in the tournament. You watch people that walk around the expo, and it seems like the YouTube anglers. Is it okay calling you a YouTube angler? You're cool with that?
You can call me whatever you want, Matt. That sounds good.
Because you're a very accomplished angler, but the majority of your content is digested on YouTube, right?
Yeah, and Facebook, but yeah.
And Facebook. Yeah. See, I don't do Facebook. That was the one thing. Like, I've got so much on my plate that I know it's probably a mistake, isn't it? It's a big time mistake.
Correct.
Yeah, we might have to talk about that afterwards. But
Maybe.
long story short, you guys are mobbed. Like, there's always people coming up to you, relating to you. Why do you think it is that you're so relatable?
Well, I think that's the hurdle and the the biggest difficulty with tournament fishing that's been for years. No matter what you do, there's not a way to make it relatable and personable, because even if you put a camera in someone's boat out on a tournament, you're still 15 feet from them behind a lens. You can see what they're throwing and see the type of areas you're at. But think about getting behind a chest camera and listening to Brandon Palaniuk talk about that cast he just made, or how he's fighting this fish, or seeing him with the rod in his hand in front of the camera fighting that fish. And not just that, but and a lot of tournament anglers, are making good lifestyle type content now. You get to see behind the scenes, what he does when he goes back to the camper, what he's doing on the drive 20 hours across the country. So I think just that point of view perspective behind that chest or hat or whatever type of camera, and see how they are in their regular life, to an extent, of course, don't put everything on camera, but is so much different than what we've had in fishing for decades.
You texted me, you said that you had some, quote, unpopular opinions that the tournament crowd may not understand. Is that kind of along those lines, or let's dive into that one?
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of that kind of goes into the business side of things too. As far as, I guess, what I realized really quickly, kind of a different part of the YouTube thing was back before I even did the YouTube social media, whatever you want to call it, full time, I developed these different friendships with companies in the industry. And I was just like you, grinding out there, trying to make it professionally as a fisherman. And the business side of things, as far as getting sponsorships, getting money to cover entry fees, gas, all your expenses, is unbelievably hard. It was hard then as well. And so through that process, I became good friends with the owner of Sixth Sense Fishing. It was kind of a fluke deal. We're traveling from my job and ended up in Houston, and I had been using the baits for a year or so. And I was like, wow, these baits are amazing. I'd love to come check it out sometime. And this is really weird, but I'm actually in your area 15 hours from home today. And Casey, the owner, was like, that's amazing. Come by the shop. And we developed our friendship. I toured the shop and everything from there. And that was like 8 years ago, and kind of built that relationship. And so it's gotten to the point where we're very close now. And I'm a huge part of the company. And so I grew my relationship, and we kind of grew at the same time. And I was able to kind of track through using his products and the sales of the products. We kind of got a really good idea of what and who was actually moving product for us. And Sixth Sense has still places an emphasis on sponsoring tournament professionals as well. But we were able to see what actually moves the needle as far as sales, and it was pretty mind-blowing.
Really?
Yes, sir.
So this is, you see all this stuff on the Sixth Sense on social media. It's a concerted, you guys are finding people who are just as dedicated as you are, who are putting content out that is basically driving sales for the company, which is the same thing in professional bass fishing, with the logo on the jersey, with using the bait for the tournament win. But do you think on YouTube it's even more effective now than it is in the tournament? Do you think a video of you catching, or you, not necessarily you, but a video of a YouTuber catching 8-pounders on a bait that they're talking about is more valuable in some instances now than an Elite Series or a BPT Pro winning a $100,000 tournament on a specific bait that they're sponsored by?
Yeah, and obviously a lot of that depends on the circumstances of who caught the fish, how they caught it, where they caught it. But same thing goes with at bats. Like I was just saying, with making all this different content, if I make 15 videos catching fish on a crankbait and tell people with that personal point of view, I'm just going out to my local lake, fishing this riprap with this square bill, crushing big ones. You can do the exact same thing. Here's how to do it. You're watching me make the cast. Think about how much more valuable that is than Joe Blow tournament fishermen, which again, I come from a tournament fishing background. I have all the respect to those anglers. But then them saying, oh, I caught it on a DT6 crankbait. That's how I won the tournament. The end. Like, what's more valuable? What's more personable to the consumer?
How many professional anglers, and you probably have a pretty good vibe of this. I mean, you fished with Ike and Ellie. You know a lot of guys that are at the very top of the game. You fished with a lot of professional anglers. What percentage of them do you think get it when it comes to relating with the fan base, with the consumer base?
Well, do you mean as far as posting content in social
Yeah,
media
as
or
far
just
as
in
as far as
general?
being relatable to the general public.
Maybe
Do you feel
5%?
like there's really five?
Yeah.
Do you think that there's more that are understanding how important that is? We've seen what obviously Edwin's doing. Jason Christie was on. He just said, "Hey, I'm starting a YouTube channel." We've seen the success of Scott Martin over the past years, a Hunter Shryack, Jacob Wheeler, Mark Daniels Jr. Once you start naming them, you're going to leave them out. But it seems like there's more and more series behind the scenes things. Do you think that is a result of some anglers realizing that this is a very viable avenue to grow their brand based on the success that they've seen of anglers like you, like Milliken Fishing, on YouTube?
Well, there's a difference between having a concerted effort to do it and then actually getting it, like you
Yeah,
said. So, I mean, anybody can go start a YouTube channel. Anyone
yeah,
can go fish a tournament too. So there's a difference between being successful at it and committing to it and understanding the type of content you have to make, and just starting it. Because I think a lot of the professional anglers are going to start the channel specifically because sponsor X, Y, and Z said they're going to drop my tournament dollars this year, my sponsorship dollars, if I don't go start a YouTube channel. And so they're going to go out and they're going to make 7 tip videos that are 30 seconds long about you should use this XYZ bait or this boat or this oil in my boat for this reason. And they're going to get 37 views on YouTube, and they're going to make one fishing video, and they're going to try to call it good. And they're going to realize that, and the companies they work with are going to realize, well, that didn't do anything for us. So, but then again, you bring up Edwin Evers, someone like that, that's
hmm
making some really highly produced content that I think is very valuable in helping people catch fish, or Brandon Palaniuk or Jacob Wheeler or Scott Martin that have been doing this for a long time, putting out valuable content and applicable content. But even those guys, a lot of times aren't putting out enough. I mean, Brandon Palaniuk was kind of at the forefront of the tournament guys that are making these long form videos that are doing an amazing job at it. But you can see even the the traction he gets isn't that great because he's only posting once a month or so, or
right.
maybe not even that. It's crazy. But yeah, I mean, it's just people are going to have to realize a lot of times you're going to have to make some uncomfortable content maybe that you don't want to make if you're crossing over into YouTube from professional fishing, and you're not going to be able to post once a month, even once a week, and be successful or really make an impact doing it.
It's like having a puppy, isn't it? You have to
Oh,
feed it, you have to play with it, you have to take it to the vet, you have to take it outside every day. Like as I've grown with the BTL and the YouTube and all that, it's just like having a puppy.
or like 10 puppies.
Yeah, probably like 10 puppies. Um, one of the things that you have really done a good job at and that I enjoy are the comparing and contrasting videos. And I think it lends a whole different level of legitimacy because yeah, you're sponsored by 6 Cents. You have that hat on, you have a glide bait out with them, but you're throwing a Hinkle shad and you're throwing all sorts of these different glide baits and all of these different talk about being open and using. I feel like the YouTube, it seems more credible in some instances when you're not just jamming the same thing down their throats over and over.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that's kind of eluded tournament fishing for a long time is people just, straight up lying about what they're using. And people have gotten so used to the BS over the years that a guy was saying they were using this when it's like, well, this has no credibility. He's a tournament guy. He probably was using 7 other baits, or he probably wasn't even throwing a crankbait. He's probably dragging a damn jig. But it's been great as my relationship and with Casey from 6 Cents has grown. We've realized, and I knew it from the start, if I'm out there throwing a Megabass 110 jerk bait and talking about it, and everyone knows it's a great bait, well, then people, when I start using the Provoke from 6 Cents, are going to give it a lot more credibility when I actually am catching fish and using that instead of the Megabass. It's nothing against the Megabass, but you can't use the same thing every single time and just jam it down people's throat. It's like I used all these different glide baits for years and years and years, and then this last summer we finally released the draw glide bait from 6 Sense that I've been working on for the last 3 years designing. And when I started using that this summer, this final version of the prototype, and catching giant fish on it, it made people, buy it like crazy. And now I'm back using the other baits too, just like I was before. And when we drop another bait from 6 Sense, it's going to do extremely well too, because it's how you build credibility.
You mentioned that. That's funny. I just wrote down the word credibility and underlined it, because that is one of the hot button issues that it talks about. What gives you the right to tell me what the best glide bait is? I mean, like, how are you an expert? You're not from California. You're from Nebraska in there with the pool. And what gives you, why is this jerk bait better than the other one? I've never seen you on the Bassmaster Classic stage.
Exactly.
It's an interesting dynamic, and I feel like there's some legitimacy in that. But what gives you credibility?
Yeah, I think I've built credibility, I feel like, because I feel like I've fished probably more tournament videos, posted more tournament videos than about anyone on the platform. I think I've won more than half the tournaments and the videos I've posted. Not that that's a huge thing, but you know how hard it is even to beat local guys in tournaments. So I think people built credibility with me over time with that. But yeah, it's a constant struggle, especially with all the new people getting into it, saying, "Oh, you should use this. You have to use this." And it's like, this guy some guys post these. They have their entire channel is based on fishing tips and different types of baits and techniques, but they're posting 5 videos a week and never showing themselves catching a fish on them, never entered a tournament in their lives. So I guess it's just something you build up over time by posting a lot of content. People realize as you travel the country that you can catch them anywhere on a lot of different baits. But just to kind of compare it to the tournament fishing side of things, when I first started fishing tournaments, and I'm sure it was the same for you as well, you show up at the boat ramp with your first boat. Mine was a 16-foot Alumacraft with a 50 horse on it and no electronics, piece of crap trolling motor. And I see these guys backing down the ramps with wrapped boats and stuff. I'm just like, oh my God, what am I doing? But now you and I go to a tournament right now and we see these guys with the wrapped boats just at your local tournament. What do you think? You don't think anything of it, because you realize a lot of people are posers and they're out there because they had the money to go buy that wrap. It doesn't mean anything. So, I mean, a lot of people can talk the talk. Can you actually go out and do it?
That's interesting. So you're saying there's a comparable. I mean, yeah, there's tons of posers on YouTube, just like there are in the tournament world.
For sure.
Interesting.
They don't build any credibility when they don't bring any fish to the scales over and over and over.
Along kind of those credibility lines, you've had a big hand in designing a lot of baits, and that obviously leads to bait sales success, fish caught on the bait. Talk about how you kind of got into that, and that's an avenue that I don't think a lot of people have the opportunity to do, is work on a project from the start to finish to bring a bait to market that anybody can buy and catch fish on. That had to be really cool, and I know you've done that with a number of baits, have you not?
Yes, sir. So once again, that came through just building the relationship with 6 Sense and everything, but the foundation for it was back when I worked full time. I needed money I couldn't take any time off, so I needed money to go fish tournaments, and I wasn't making any good money. And I did that I actually built my own tackle, and I started airbrushing lures and doing a lot of stuff like Uncle Frank talks about. And was making money selling those type of baits. And so I always had a knack for tinkling with tackle and doing that stuff, especially being from Nebraska. You got a long off season in the winter to do that type of stuff. So I built jigs. I built, chatter baits, spinner baits. I airbrushed people's baits. I sold them on eBay back before everyone and their mom was airbrushing lures to sell for $2 online on Facebook groups. I was one of the first ones to do that. And so I funded a lot of my fishing off of that, and that love for creating my own tackle and something different and something better than what was out there was kind of from that foundation.
This big bass phase, I said not phase, but it seems like over the last couple years, like there's been a lot of giant bass caught on camera, videos targeting giant bass. You had 8 double digits on camera in 2021. Is that correct?
You got it. Yes.
And that was that the first. I mean, how many? Had you not caught a double digit before this year?
That's right. I caught 0, which is exactly the number that live in Nebraska.
Really? So
0.
moving to Texas has been pretty awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, before that, before I moved to Texas, I did travel down to Texas. We'd make 1 or 2 winter trips, and I'd traveled all over the country too. But yeah, moving down here has definitely allowed me to target better than average fish. But I think one thing people don't understand was I've always, especially the last few years before I moved, posted content catching 5 and 6 pounders in Nebraska pretty much every time I went out. And a lot of times I'd catch a dozen of them. And people watch the videos and, you know, those are great fish. Those are bigger than what I usually catch, but they don't realize those are the biggest fish in the lake. Those are our biggest fish. Those are our Texas 8 to 10 pound fish. And so moving down here, it's parallel. I mean, I'm able to target fish in the same way. I have learned a lot the last year about specifically targeting this big fish that I think has helped me, and hopefully we'll go stick some big ones today and moving forward. But yeah.
You mentioned in your last video there was a deal where you said, "Oh, is it a state record?" And then you were kind of joking about that. Do you think there's an actual possibility that I believe the state record in Texas is 18 pounds? Do you think there's a real possibility that a state record over the next couple years could get caught on camera in Texas?
Yeah, I'm going to. No, they're out there. 1,000% chance. I've seen them on live scope. I know there are a couple different lakes that have them for sure.
Really?
Positive.
What do you think the biggest one you've seen on live scope is?
I don't know. It's hard to tell between a 15 and a low 20s, you know.
You think you've seen a 20-pound bass on live scope?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes. And if you've
Just
seen a
based on
20,
how it behaves,
there's probably a world
how it
record, right?
looks. Yeah.
Yeah, like a beach ball swimming around slowly.
How many 18 to 20-pound bass do you think you've had a bait over the last 2 years within 10 feet of?
A handful, probably.
You realize what you're saying here. This is like nuts, dude.
Yeah, people don't understand it. That's why it's really cool. Hopefully we catch one of them.
Yeah. It seems
I didn't think it was possible either until I got live scope and started exploring some of these lakes that used to be untapped.
So the big bass craze that started in California, where you do like Castaic and all this, and then you Dixon and all that, and you look them up on Google Earth and you realize these aren't guys that are just like going out, and it's a unique set of circumstances between the trout and the fishery, and they're small and they're not super highly pressured right now. Is that kind of happening in Texas right now between the technology, the baits, the perfect storm that is setting up, in your opinion? And there's going to be a small window where obviously we've seen a lot of these records and giants and 14, 12, 14, 15-pound fish. Do you think we're in a window right now based on what you've seen?
I don't think we're in a window. I think it's opened up. I mean, you could call it a window, but I don't see it ending anytime soon. But it's a combination of the technology and then I don't know. But the Texas Parks and Wildlife, the concerted effort with the ShareLunker program to stock hundreds of thousands of these ShareLunker fry in these lakes 10 to 15 years ago. And then a low population around some of these lakes and areas that have these lakes, mixed with great habitat, great water quality, and a crazy forage base.
How many of these guys are doing this?
As far as
targeting these types of fish on the right bodies of water?
I don't know. I know at least 2 or 3.
But it's not like hundreds.
Well, it is
that
now.
Are doing it in your opinion. That's the thing. Like, how do you do this without just like destroying fisheries?
Well, we're 0 for 1 on that. But we didn't do that on purpose. That actually only happened because we went to release our 16-pounder and we weren't going to put any of it on. And we didn't ever say the name of the lake we caught it at. Mm-hmm. But it only happened because it wouldn't swim off, it wouldn't kick off. So we ended up taking it to the ShareLunker facility. And at that point, it got registered and people saw where it was at. And then you got a zoo down there now.
Because they post what lake it's on, like the 2 14-pounders that just got caught. It was
Correct.
on Texas Parks and Wildlife with, hey, here's the lake and these guys holding the fish.
Correct. Yeah, those fish almost didn't happen.
Do you think that's good or bad, or it is what it is?
Good for
Do
a
you
lot of
feel
people.
like you have any
kinda bad for us.
responsibility in that? Or, I mean, it's because that's an interesting, I do it with the crappie fishing. Why don't you film any of the crappie fishing? I don't want anybody else out there at that lake. And
Yeah.
you know, there's always that guy who says that this is the lake that it's at. And I don't really see any value in posting that. But this is your job, your career, your life. This is what you do to feed your family and make a living. Is that something that you struggle with? Or is that something that is just something that you're making concerted effort? Or is it something that you just don't care about? Obviously, you care about it because you're not blowing lakes out of the water.
Yeah, definitely. It's a fine line you got to walk. We're going to be a lot more careful moving forward about that after what happened. But yeah, it's constantly on our minds. We're having to lie about where we're at, change different camera angles, not get as good a content as we could have got just to specifically try to hide a lot of the places we're fishing.
You got to get a lot of just BS. Like, do you got, I mean, you have to have a lot of hate as far as when it comes to exposing fisheries and stuff. Like, do you respond to that? What's the craziest thing you've ever?
Oh, I don't even know, man. You do this for a living and you put out 5 videos a week for 6 years. You see a lot of hate from a lot of different things. Pretty much everything you could possibly think of, from what you're saying to what you're wearing to where you're fishing to how you're fishing to how you handled the fish to everything else. You got to grow some thick skin, you know? So yeah, people don't like it. There was a big contingent of people, not a big, but a decent sized contingent of people with this specific lake that said, I wish you wouldn't have blown this out. I wish you wouldn't have exposed it. But there was a lot more people that said this community was dying. There was no business. No one was coming out here. And now our economy's back booming again. So thank you for that. And so there was definitely a lot of positive that went along with it too.
How many lakes do you think exist where you could catch a 15-pounder right now in Texas?
15?
12 to 15.
Oh,
like,
well, 15.
12,
I mean, even a 15, I think 20 plus.
Really?
Lakes. Yeah, for sure. I mean,
do
if
you
go
like
on the
going out and grinding?
What's that?
Do you like going out and grinding on like big tournament lakes, or is chasing these giants now kind of something that you're really into right now?
It's something I'm definitely really into. And so even I'm only 2 hours from Sam Rayburn, and there's obviously tournaments there constantly, big tournaments. And there is giant fish in Rayburn, obviously, but I do have a hard time spending a lot of my time trying to learn Rayburn, which is a monster. And I've still only spent 5 days, probably 5 days total on it. But yeah, it's really hard to go there when there's a lot of opportunities everywhere in the state.
I wasn't expecting it. I wanted to talk about it and bring it up, but I guess I didn't realize. I didn't realize what you're saying as far as the potential of what exists out there in Texas. Is it like that in other states too? Are there a lot of small, overlooked bodies of water that doing what you do with the time that you dedicate to it, you find a lot of gems that a lot of people just drive past every day?
Well, no, I don't think there is in a lot of other states. I think Louisiana has a bunch with giants in them. I don't know about Florida because I don't know enough about it. I don't know enough about Georgia either, but I know Georgia has some spots too. And I don't really fish tiny places. I mean, lakes are still 5 to 10,000 acres plus. But yeah, there's giants down here, man.
Tournament wise, you mentioned that you want to get back into it. You've talked about starting the bass club there. What is your timetable, plan, goals, ambitions for doing that? Like, do you want to be an Elite Series angler? Do you want to be on the BPT? Do you want to transition to where you make most of your living as a tournament angler, or are you thinking of some sort of hybrid YouTube fishing thing, a little bit out of the box? What's the plan moving forward on that? You're what, 32?
I'm 32. Yep.
You got plenty of time.
Yeah, exactly. And I wish there was a lot more of a timetable on that. My wife probably wishes I had something planned besides what I'm doing tomorrow too. But I've, like I said, my goal was to reach the Elite Series, fish the top level ever. And I started this, and I've really had to rethink things. And I tell people this all the time. They're like, why don't you go fish the opens? Why don't you fish professionally? Well, I make a lot better living without having to be gone 10 weeks a year or more, and don't have to be away from my family and doing this YouTube thing and filming different types of content, as opposed to having to go to the Sabine River and spend a week and a half there and catch 9 1-pounders, So, and another part of it is too, seeing how popular the opens have gotten and how difficult.
It's
and
crazy. They
Mad
have like
props to you.
100 like people waiting list like a day after, and they're completely all filled up. There's 80 some that are fishing all 9. It's absolutely nuts.
It's like impossible. It's so difficult. It's incredible. Like the amount of like just pure luck you have to even have an opportunity to have your skill really show. It's crazy.
Do you follow? So you follow the tournament trail throughout the year?
Yeah. Oh, all of them. Yeah.
How many of these guys have reached out to you? How many of the big name guys looking to get into making videos, doing it, have been like, Ben, like I'm really good at winning trophies and cashing it, but I need some help with this. And have you helped any of these guys kind of develop a strategy to increase their YouTube and Facebook and fishing videos?
Well, it might surprise you a little bit. I'm not proud to say it, but none. I think that there's a level of disrespect between tournament level guys and YouTube guys, and I'm sure that will change in the next couple of years once they realize the difficulty and how difficult it is right now, especially with as many channels as there are to get into the social media YouTube side of things. I think people will start opening their minds that are the top tournament level guys. But no, I haven't yet, honestly. I fished with a couple, obviously, and Ike is someone that's smart enough to just have all the respect in the world to me and open up and talk to me about strategy and different stuff. And he doesn't need any help. He's everywhere at one time on everything across every level of the industry.
Ike socks behind us, and Ike energy drink, and Ike cassette tape.
Exactly. He doesn't count.
That surprises me. I'd have thought it'd been smart for it would have been it's a symbiotic relationship.
Correct.
I mean, you have something that they want, and they've achieved something that is one of your future goals.
Correct.
So it seems like it would be the perfect marriage to kind of flatten that learning curve for both sides.
I've reached out to several, and I do have stuff in the plans to fish with a lot of these guys. I'm going fishing with Lee Livesey next week for 3 or 4 days. So I'm excited for that, but that's not necessarily for me to teach him how to do YouTube. That's more because of this, and we've kind of, started talking quite a bit and become friends and developed a relationship. So hopefully we have a good time catching some giant fish.
Awesome. So do you have a full-time camera guy?
I do. Yes, he's right back.
That's an interesting job. So when I covered the Elite Series for 10 years, went to every single one from 2008 until I think 2018, carrying the camera around and doing that behind the scenes. Definitely an underrated job.
Yes.
Lot of work and a lot of stress and pressure. So
absolutely.
How did you find that? I mean, you found someone whose full-time job is to do you still edit some of your stuff? Do you ask for the shots, or is it you fish and it's his show?
Yeah, I got insanely lucky with Cole. Just kind of put some feelers out as far as a job posting, and he kind of fell into my lap and was extremely good at what he does. And he's from a couple hours away in Nebraska too. And his job's as crazy as mine. We don't know what we're doing 12 hours from now. And what environment that's going to be in. But yeah, Cole edits most of the videos and films most of the videos. He actually makes them look pretty, whereas I go out and I film a bang fishing video and edit it in an hour and a half and it looks like crap. But I still do that like I don't know, probably 1 video a week on average, 1 to 2 a week maybe. But yeah, it's like you said, man, it's a thankless job that's impossible to understand what conditions and what you go through. I can't imagine with the Elite Series grind too.
Yeah, it is. A couple more questions, and we'll let you go. I know you're itching to get to the lake. You probably already missed the morning bite. I will take full responsibility for that. I apologize. But this
No,
time of
you're good.
year, there also is a keen afternoon bite typically. So maybe you'll get there just in time to hit that. But where do
Yeah,
you
moon rises
see
until this afternoon anyway.
where do you see this YouTube fishing video thing going? Has it reached a point of saturation? Is it just getting started? Is it still the Wild West? Have the guys that figured it out are going to remain at the pinnacle? Where do we stand in this whole thing, and how long will it last? Cuz it's a weird niche, man.
Definitely. It's hard to say it hasn't reached its point of saturation, but people are going to have to kind of decide what they want to do with it. I think back when I started, just becoming a full-time YouTuber was a possibility. I don't know if that exists anymore, but there's still the opportunity to grow your own personal brand, provide good content, make money from it, but then also learn other ways, get involved in the industry in a lot of other ways, working with sponsors, maybe posting on different types of platforms. Just like we talked about with Cole, I think the demand for camera guys and editors is skyrocketing. You have all these guys that are trying to get into it. And I know Jason Christie isn't going to be wanting to sit there, film his own and edit his own content, let alone everybody else.
He's not even going to want the camera to be on.
Exactly. How many of his spots is he actually going to allow them to film? I mean, let's be honest. I heard him giving it to you last week. That was amazing.
It will.
That
That'll
made me
be
feel so
interesting to
warm
see how
inside.
that goes. He's very well respected here at Oklahoma, though. But I mean, he has done some Instagram live stuff where he fishes around 10 killer for like 6 hours before. But I mean, he's probably got 100 different places out there. Where's the live element going? That's my question. One of my last questions for you is the next frontier, the live stuff, to where in the future, if I wanted to, I could log on to your channel and I could watch you go out and try to catch these 10, 12, 15, 18-pound bass in Texas, as opposed to having you have to wait to come out with a 30-minute video about it.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be a place for live content across any platform. People are always interested in that. I mean, people play video games for hours and hours at a time. But the problem is always with fishing that we have enough reception to do live almost 0% of the time.
That's a fair point.
And so I guess maybe that changes with reception getting better over time. That's what it's going to be based off of.
Who are you watching? Who do you, when you just have 20 minutes, are sitting down and pulling up their channel and seeing what's up?
I can't remember the last time I had 20 minutes to do that, Matt, but I don't even know. I'd still love to watch tournament videos, tournament fishing. I don't watch a lot of the tournament guys, but I'll straight up watch a Bassmaster show.
You dig that?
I like some of like I moved to Texas and I got a nice property with a big garage on it now. So I've always really liked the Bass Cave type videos and kind of people showing how they organize all their stuff. And I'm a huge tackle nerd, tackle junkie. So I love when they dig back into that box of pre-grab wiggle warts or something like that, and see what guys got. But those are the type of videos I probably watch the most.
I want to say it was like 2011, 2010, 11, 12. Anyway, Jeffries came into this studio and he's like, I got the next big thing, because he's always looking for the next thing. Like as soon as you do one thing, hey, what's next? Because it's going to get copied. And he's like, cribs for fishing. We're like, really? And he called it In the House. And we did Swindle and Ike and Marty Stone, Luke Clausen, Andy Morgan. And that was 10, 12 years ago. Had a gorilla pegboard sponsor that paid for the travel and all that. And then they'd send him the pegboard before the deal and they'd get it set up. And I just remember how cool that was watching. I got to film a couple, and then we did Jeff Crete. You couldn't see the floor in the shop. Just stuff everywhere. But, that was kind of some of the first crib style fishing videos. Did you see Jordan Lee's? Jordan Lee's is like straight up goals.
It is. It's awesome. I did one. I didn't know you guys did that. That's super cool. I'm going to have to try to dig some of that up. How did Ike's compare to a lot of them? Because when I went and stayed at that man's house, I'd be lying if I said we didn't sneak down there to the garage and just like, oh my God, we were digging through boxes and stuff. Oh, look at this stuff. Oh my God. It's
So
incredible.
I've only been to Ike's once. Jeffries went and did that one, and I only got to see, like, I didn't, it's kind of like segmented. Like they got their house, and then they've got like kind of the
Yeah,
Ike
yeah.
Live studio area, and then the tackle and all that. So I didn't get to see
Yep.
like the house or the tackle. I just kind of was in the deal with Brian the Carpenter and all those guys.
Yeah,
You an old baits guy? You mentioned the wiggle warts and all that. Do you like?
Oh,
Are you a bait
yep,
nut?
I am. But at the same time, I'm only interested in stuff that's actually like applicable and works. I'm not like a vintage bait collector, but I'm real interested in a lot of the old spooks. And you guys were talking, what was it yesterday, about the old Vixen you had in package there, and you were talking.
Yeah.
I know you talk about pre-wrap warts and stuff a lot too.
Mm-hmm. What's
So,
your
yeah,
favorite?
I'm interested in that.
What's your if you had to fish just one bait? I mean, I know that you have caught giants on single swim baits, glide baits, Alabama rigs. You crank, but it seems like you're a big fan of that soft swim bait. Like you love that bite. It seems like you geek out more when you roll like a 5 or 6 inch soft swim bait past a bass and it just inhales it. Is that your favorite bite?
Probably right now. I think we're doing a lot of stuff like we talked about that's never been done or seen before, and a lot of that is applying the big baits to the forward-facing sonar, and that's kind of untapped. I mean, you're putting baits, giant baits that fish have never seen before, in parts of the water column that they've never seen that bait or any bait a lot of times too. And so, yeah, that's probably my favorite. A 7-inch line through swim bait's a deadly guy.
Really interesting to see how long this lasts. Like before those untapped fish get accustomed and feel pressure, and it's just a whole new frontier that's been going on right now, and it's just more and more guys are picking up on it. I don't understand it. I'm not out there doing it. I'm throwing a drop shot around docks for 12 pounds a day, but I'm very aware of what's going on out there. And I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens over the next 3 or 4 years as far as, does the bank bite get better? Do old school techniques now where fish used to be picked off on laydowns and docks and rip wrap, do they go there because everyone's out in the middle of the lake chasing these things?
I don't know. I think that's kind of a theme that's kind of gotten popular, is, everyone's out offshore, and especially with Fighter winning Angler of the Year like he did.
Right.
But I honestly don't think that'll ever happen again, where someone just goes out and is a phenomenal fisherman and just picks apart shallow cover. I don't think anyone will ever win Angler of the Year like that again. There'll be tournaments, of course, won like that, but I think forward-facing will win Angler of the Year 90% of the time.
See, that's what I like about you. You know your stuff. You're very educated.
You got to come down here, Matt.
I'm in between all the BTLs that I'm doing and the 9 opens.
Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday. How are you going to film this many BTLs? Are you going to do it before you go out practicing that day for the opens, or what are you going to do?
No, so two different ways. There's some content on BTLs that is not pertinent, daily goings on. So there will be some pre-recorded shows. That's the only way it will work. So like when I go down to Florida, I'll have a week of pre-recorded shows that I'll be able to publish on the website so I can focus on the open. Because here's the thing. I have to be 100% focused on BTL, have to be 100% focused on the open when I'm down there too. Otherwise you suck at both.
Correct.
So early on, that's kind of the plan, to do some pre-recorded shows that will then go out still Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at the same time on all the podcast platforms, out on YouTube. They'll just be recorded the week before. And then the beauty is, with this technology and everything being cloud-based, it's very easy to do mobile. So all I have to do is be cognizant of my Wi-Fi signal, get some things to get that dialed in, build a mobile studio to make it look professional. I mean, dude, for 5 years when Jeffries was doing this wide open with Harold Allen, we would take 8-foot green screen, 8 big giant Rubbermaid tubs full, like 3 mixing boards. I mean, it took like a day to set up all of this stuff, and we'd go into a bar and just take over a whole corner of it, or a chamber of commerce or something. So, it's 2022, and mobile podcast and video studios are so once I get 100% comfortable and familiar with that, there will be a lot of live from the open shows, or awesome. Come down and do live from Ben Milliken's place for 3 or 4 days, so we can do a week of BTLs and then we can go chase some giants.
Deal. That sounds good,
So,
man. I'm in
you
on
got
that.
anything else coming up that you want to talk about? What's coming up video wise, product wise, anything that people need to be looking out for?
Nothing in particular, really. I would like to give a plug. If you get everyone that watches this probably wears sunglasses on the water. We started a sunglass company called Waterland a couple years ago, and it's really taken off. We kind of just had the idea that we've been wearing sunglasses on the water that are super expensive for years, and they're still falling apart. What if we can make a lens that's the highest quality on the market, holds up, great customer service, great price? So a little bit of a shameless plug there. Go check out Waterland sunglasses, and we need to get you some, Matt.
There you go.
And be checking on
willing
my
to.
socials next week, because we're gonna
All
me
right.
and Lee Livesey will be posting some 10+ pounders, hopefully 15+ pounders.
I'm calling it right now. I'm gonna say 10:46. 10:46 today.
Hey, deal. I like that.
You'll take it. You'll take a 10:46. You got posted if you catch a 10:46. I'll send you this 10-second clip.
10:46. I'll tag you in.
10:46.
Hopefully I catch it before the end of the show today at the lake, and I'll send you a picture, and you can show that on the screen or something.
Well, the show's ended in about 2 minutes, so.
We better get out there.
Ben, I really appreciate it. You dove into a lot of stuff. We covered a lot of topics in this. You're very candid, very educated in the industry. So check out Milliken Fishing on YouTube and apparently Facebook. Big time on Facebook too. So thanks, dude. I appreciate it,
Matt. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Good luck today, man.
Yeah, good luck this year.
Thank you. That was Ben Milliken of Milliken Fishing, and he didn't really hold anything back there. There's a million different ways you could go with that as far as how you got into it, but we pretty much covered all of that. So that's about all we got on a Wednesday for BTL. I did get a text from Uncle Frank right before the show started. He said, Matt, tomorrow we will open up the Sunline hotline and have audience participation. Also, I will talk about the Norman Speed End and some stuff in the paint shop. So there you go. You heard it from the man himself, Frank. Scalish Sunline Hotline show tomorrow, which will be another first. It'll be the first time in 2022 that we have taken some listeners and viewers' calls. January 12th. We made it through 2 weeks of BTL. We'll see you for day 4 with Uncle Frank tomorrow. That's it.